Have and have not fans, this is going to be a very fast theory video that I'm putting together, so I apologize for the lack of photos aside from the one of Veronica. But I had to make this video because I went home for the 4-day weekend in my case, 4th of July holidays, talked to my mom face to face about the haves and the have-nots. Remember the video I did before this past weekend regarding who put the hit on Veronica? The amount of time, thought, and work that I put into that thing was enough for me to take a break. But then when I talked with my mom and she pretty much debunked my darn theory, kind of ticked me off. But at the same time, I was mad because it was so good. So that's why I'm doing this video. So if it's right, my mom gets the credit for it, even though she's not on social media. But I'll tell her that you think that it's good. My mom's theory, she said the Melissa theory that I came up with was pretty good. But what if Veronica put a hit out on herself? I know, it makes no sense. But hang on, that's what I thought at first. But then she explained it. And this is one of the, and before I even get into the theory, and I'm not saying this to debunk my mom's theory, but because this is a recurring theme throughout the haves and the have-nots, despite it being a good show that makes you think and it's a drama, there are a lot of loose ends, and that's the one thing I don't like about the show. And it's one of the things I don't like about the show, how that there are too many open-ended plots that aren't resolved yet. I feel like the show has more open-ended non-finished plots, but then they keep piling more and more plot holes into it, and it just makes it a big mess. But eventually I hope everything gets straightened out. It's like a tangled mess right now, but hopefully it gets straightened out. I think that it comes down to the fact that my mom said that perhaps she did call in a hit on herself, but maybe it was a hit on Maggie. Here's what I mean. Jim originally did make the call to Mama Rose to put the hit out on Veronica, but then for whatever reason he decided to cancel it. Veronica put out a hit on Maggie to come to her house, and that's why, she got shot multiple times instead of once. Here's what my mom said. It's hard to believe, but it might have happened off screen. Remember that when Maggie went over to Veronica's house and expressed the truth about what happened that night at the hotel, where David, she had him in a position to do whatever. She was in a position for him to do whatever he wanted her, but all he could do was think about his wife, which was true. Then went on to say that every kiss that you don't accept on your body from David is going to be on my body, pretty much expressing I do want your man. And that's when Veronica has that breakdown. Then she goes over to Benny's towing to say that they need to end this little fling they've been having. Then they have sex again, and that's when Wyatt has a recording on his phone. And then eventually we'll see Jim announcing that he's still running for governor despite Celine, coming out about, having outside children outside of the marriage of Catherine, along with the whole David's supposed to be announcing that he's running for governor, but since Jim didn't bow out, that didn't happen. So apparently my mom says that Jim canceled the hit on Veronica, which he did, according to her, he did do it. But then off screen, before the actual campaign meeting, the campaign show or television, whatever you want to call it, Veronica put in a hit. So she must have put in the hit before they got arrested by Jennifer, because remember, none of them got a phone call while in jail. So it had to have been something she did before she got arrested. And then when she checked, that's why she stopped by the house, checked her, camera system on her iPad or tablet, and that's when she saw the shooter in there. But the thing in this is the whole, as I mentioned in my other videos about Quita telling Veronica not to go home because there's somebody there for her. But Veronica could have put the tip or the hit out anonymously, and that's why she was a bit confused. But my mom did bring up one point that didn't make 2 points that made a lot of sense. Number one, remember that the shooter wasn't paid. Remember, and again, Oscar said that his source said that, Jim canceled the hit because Jim isn't going to go into, the thugs and, try to find his way of doing. He's not going to work with the gunk of the city to do his dirty work, if you want to put it that way. This shooter was part of the crew that Quita knew and that Quincy, was running. Veronica helped to get Quincy's brother out of jail, and it got Quincy out of jail, so she knows the connections to get a hitman. Not to mention that David said whenever she bought that house, Veronica's one to like hide her paper trail. You know, she'll use a false name or do this or do that. It's possible that when she made this hit for the shooter to go to her house before the campaign, she used like a false name, or I believe it's called a pseudonym, but didn't make the payment, the $20K. Remember that when she arranged for Toxic to be placed in the cell with Wyatt so he could sexually molest him, when Toxic and her were on the phone together, when he asked about the payment, she hung up on him. That let me know right there that, again, she's not above working against a gunk to get her dirty work done, as well as not paying them for their work. That was the point, number one, that my mom made. Again, the shooter could have been within Quincy's crew, and then she would know the connections. Number two, and this is the one that had me sold. That's why I got mad at my mom, because it made so much sense. The shooter shot Maggie at least, 6 times? The shooter knew what he was doing. I think it makes sense that Veronica put the hit out on a white woman named Maggie to come over, because remember, before they got arrested, she knew that Maggie wanted David. So it wouldn't surprise me if she still would have made that phone call to say, Maggie, come over to my house. There are some things about David you need to know. And that's why she arranged for, hey, if a white woman with blonde hair answers the door or opens the door, shoot her to death. Hence why he shot her multiple times, because if he knew that Veronica Harrington was the target, he would have clearly seen that it was a white woman who opened the door, and he wouldn't have shot her as many times as he did. And that's when he ran out there like an idiot and then got shot himself, meaning that he wouldn't have needed to get paid by Veronica or the name that she used to hire him. So the main point of this video theory is the hit on Veronica got canceled by Jim, but then Veronica put another hit on, well, herself or Maggie to be at his house, for the shooter to be at her house to end up shooting Maggie Day to death, and then that's the end of the woman who would have stole her husband from her. The trick is, Tyler Perry could be using effective misdirection here. Remember that the shooter appeared at the house at the same time that the hits on Terrell, Toxic, and Professor Cannon went down, so Tyler Perry could be throwing that wrench in there to let us know that, okay, just to make it more confusing, I'll make it seem like the shooter at Veronica's house was set up by Jim because he showed up at the exact same time as the other shooters or killers of Cannon, Toxic, and Terrell. So again, if this theory turns out to be correct, that Veronica was the one that put out the hit which resulted in Maggie Day's death, my mom gets all the credit. But if it's Melissa, then, I get that credit. So let me know in the comment section below. Do you think that Veronica put the hit out on herself? Or did Jim still go through with the hit, but Oscar gave false information because he's playing double agent? Let me know in the thoughts in the comment section below. And do it fast, because the new episode is coming out in a couple of hours.